Hey everybody, welcome to Brilliant Frugal Living. Shout outs from everybody here in Studio B as we connect with our 200 plus stations coast to coast via the Biz Talk Radio and BBS Radio networks. Greetings to you all. This week's show is brought to you by our caring sponsors at Elite Rehab, because everyone knows a family that's fighting the effects of today's substance abuse epidemic, and that is the correct word for it. And if someone you care about needs help, pick up the phone. Call the professionals at 800-932-4082. That's 800-932-4082. Help the ones you love put that chapter behind them. 800-932-4082. I've been looking so forward to today's show, and the subject matter for today's show kind of jumped up on me out of nowhere, and that turns into my favorite shows. We're going to be talking about, basically, for lack of a better word, just going old school a little bit. In this day and age where you've got a brand new app popping up every day that's supposed to make your life magically so much easier, and a lot of people use these apps. I don't mean to, browbeat them at all, but I'm thinking a little more old school, and I'll tell you why. And when I was a kid, and when you guys were kids, your parents probably, most parents did, taught you valuable lessons about how to live smart with money. And, frugally with money. I say frugally with pride because it's not just about saving money, which is great. And honestly, that's the end goal. But the sideline effects, intended or not, when you're living frugally, you're living great. You're living luxuriously, but you're also saving the economy. You're in many proven ways saving your mental health just a bit, your physical health, certainly. Put a price tag on those two things. It goes on and on. Frugal rocks. Some of the most valuable information that my parents, probably your parents, maybe some Depression-era grandparents, if you were lucky enough to have those in your life, what they shared with you was about money. The most valuable lessons were about money, about making friends and building a home, everything else. A lot of it hinged on money, how to save money, how to make money, how to put your money in the right places, how to build your credit, how to buy things that are important, ignore things that are not important. And these days, those lessons are being so blurred with this double-edged sword that is technology and all these other money-related topics that impact your future, your kids' future, your future grandkids, you name it. Now, back during my childhood and early adulthood, and yours probably as well, those conversations were really important and they stuck with me. And I still made a few money blunders despite them, just like everybody. And now that Victor and I are raising our own family, those lessons really are becoming more and more hugely important in my mind, not only because they were so impactful on us, but because we live in a world where I'm seeing instant gratification is now the norm. It's the scary norm. Instant gratification. You need something, you get it immediately. You'll have it droned out to your house. Case in point, this is what got me thinking about today's show. We went to go see an adorable play, A Wizard of Oz, set up at a nearby university, and one of our dearest friends had a daughter in it. She's going into high school. She's such a talented entertainer, total cutie. We had a great time. And as we were driving away, I mentioned just in passing to our kids how when I was a kid, and maybe when you guys were a kid, The Wizard of Oz came on once a year on television. All right. There were no DVD players, not even really any VCRs when I was really little. VCRs came out when I was about maybe the 8th, 9th grade. And we saw it once a year. Once. You had to plan around it. We'd have sleepover parties for The Wizard of Oz. It was a big deal. We'd plan for it. If you used the bathroom during the commercial and you came back and it was already on again and you missed the flying monkeys, too bad. You missed it. There's no rewind. All right. You're getting my point here. You had to plan. You had to accommodate your actions. You had to budget. I use that word specifically. You budget your time and your actions. You plan ahead to get the results you want. That's stuff we learned whether we knew we were learning it or not. Rushing to the bathroom during commercials during The Wizard of Oz, we were learning how to budget our resources. And these days, our kids, for better or for worse, do not have to budget their resources. Now, as an adult, as I'm raising kids, try to tell me one thing that kids have to wait for or budget for these days. What do they have to wait for? A package on the doorstep? No, Not anymore. They often show up same day. Hey, Mom, here comes the drone. I mean, I'm waiting for that to happen. Waiting for money in an account. You don't have to wait for a paycheck to get mailed to you that you then have to drive to the bank and be polite and grown up and deposit it and have eye-to-eye contact with people. God forbid. You get the sarcasm there. If you've got a job, money's instantly put into your PayPal account or your bank account. You're set. You're good. You get the point. Now, the good news is, luckily, we live in an era where technology has seemingly made saving money a little tiny bit easier. The bad news is we live in an era where technology has made spending money effortless. Okay, so to save money, you could go to any of the bazillion apps out there. I don't use any of them. I do not use one money-saving app. In fact, this is a heads up. I don't know anyone who uses them and saves money. I know plenty of them who employ those apps and spend a heck of a lot of money. That's a fact. What I do have is a list from people, from listeners who have built up a sizable financial portfolio for themselves and their households, including their home, their savings, and their assets. These are people anywhere from in their 40s to in their 80s who are saving, who now have a collective account, collective holdings, anywhere from $500,000, aka $500,000, to $750,000 to over $1 million in holdings. And these guys started small, gang, no big wig corner office jobs, no winning lotto tickets, just regular jobs like you and me, and spent and saved their money old school. I love old school. Old school is suits and ties, you guys. It's holding open the door for the ladies. We still dig that. And the ladies had time to do their nails without an app beeping at them. You know what I mean? Where people got a little more sleep, had a little more time with their kids, and knew how to spend their money smart, planning for the future rather than spending on the latest app to make themselves happy for the next 5 minutes. And then, you go right back where you were. Lather, rinse, repeat. So now, in no particular order, straight from other hardworking Americans, okay, your fellow listeners who turned their hard work into a well-earned financial security blanket. These tips, top 5 right now. It's go time. And then we're doing more all through the entire show. Number 1, if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty of saving money, their number 1 tip, live not just below your means, but adorably, fascinatingly, coolly below your means. One of the biggest things that isn't reinforced in this era where self-indulgence is just the norm. It's not just for special occasions. Now we do XYZ. We get the car washed. We go out to eat. We get a manicure, whatever it is. We just don't live below our means. If we've got it, we get rid of it. We spend it. We spend it as soon as we get it. And that is really hijacking your future. You might have heard this before, but I'm going to go into a little more detail. You might not be even struggling with your finances per se, but it doesn't mean you should spend all or most of what you have. If your aim is to either send yourself or your kids to college or buy a house down the line or pay off your house, take 5 seconds to please envision your life and the ripple effects of it. If your house was paid off, take a second. How would that affect your life? How would that affect your sleep? How would that affect your worry about your job or maybe thinking about starting the next new business idea on your own or having more time with your kids if you didn't have a mortgage payment? Boom. It's an essential step. Spend less than you make. Americans in general, hugely struggling to save money. All right, let alone the young people. You ready for these horrifying rates? And I say horrifying, they're meant to be somewhat reassuring if you feel like you're kind of not where you want to be. You're not alone. Go Banking Rate Survey found that 57% of Americans, about 6 in 10, 3 in 5, I could go on and on, 3 in 5 Americans have less than $1,000 in their savings account, while 39%, otherwise known as 2 in 5, hardworking Americans killing themselves, getting up super early, spending time away from their family and their friends and the things they love to go to work. 2 in 5 are spending in such a way they have no savings at all. Furthermore, about 70% of people, this is the younger set, this is kind of what I'm a little worried about right now, 70% of people aged 18 to 24 have less than $1,000 in their savings account. I'm going to say that again. 7 in 10 people between ages 18 and 24, everybody knows them, have less than $1,000 in their savings account, while 46%, I'm just calling that half of all kids 18 to 24 have zero savings. Now, I'm not tooting my own horn here because I was one of the most boring goody two-shoes 18 to 24-year-olds that ever walked the planet a couple of decades back. All right? But I'm talking back in the 80s. Back in the 80s when $1,000 was a little different than $1,000 today, I was working in a department store for pretty much minimum wage, working as much as I could on the weekends to get that extra overtime. Even I, one of the most boring teenagers on the planet, had more $1,000 in the bank, saved up, probably a little bit more, probably substantially more. I know it was more than $1,000 way back in the 80s compared to today. All right? And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Guys, more of the old school tips, tricks, techniques, proven fabulous right after this.
Cheap is